Parents, we face a dilemma no generation before us has. The smartphone dilemma. And it goes like this. You either give your child a device you know is addictive and comes with all kinds of risks, or you say no and risk cutting them off from their friends at exactly the age when you want to give them more independence. It can feel like an impossible choice, a classic lose-lose. But hold on, what happens if I told you there's another way? A way that's already solved the smartphone dilemma for thousands of parents and is spreading fast across the country. So in this video, I'm going to delve into industry insider knowledge about how we got here in the first place. I'm going to show you the mounting evidence that proves we can't ignore this anymore. And I'm going to show you the exact steps you can take to protect your children from the harms of smartphones. But firstly, you might be thinking, who in the world are you? I'm Manish from Smartphone Free Childhood, and I've spent my career working in big tech, building products for companies like Facebook. So I know exactly how things work behind these screens. But after I became a parent, I realized something wasn't right. I watched this whole smartphone situation spiral out of control and knew I had to be part of the solution and not the problem. And that is why I joined the Smartphone Free Childhood movement, because something special really is happening. Hundreds of thousands of parents across the country are refusing to accept that this is just the way things are going to be for our children. So let me tell you a story about how we got here in the first place. And in order to do that, we need to rewind the clock back to 2004. Back to a time when everywhere you went, Outkast's Hey Ya was being played on the radio. It was the final episode of Friends. Arsenal went a whole season unbeaten and everyone was wearing those yellow Livestrong bracelets. But of course, last but not least, we all had those iconic Nokia bricks in our pockets. Back then, if you think about it, our biggest distractions were playing Snake, picking the perfect mini ringtone, or even deciding which case you want to snap on next. Then in 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto stage and introduced something that would change the world forever. Not that we knew it at the time, of course. 2008 brought the App Store and suddenly we had access to thousands of free apps. Well, not so free, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Then in 2012 came the final piece of the puzzle. Do you remember when you need to send an email on the go and you'd go to one of those stuffy internet cafes where you're packed in like sardines? Well, 4G networks came along and smashed that all out of the water. Suddenly we were connected to the internet anytime, anywhere. And at that point, our phones had basically transformed from phones that make phone calls into these mini supercomputers. So why were these three ingredients so crucial to the story of where we are right now? Because the three of them blended together to make smartphones the fastest spreading technology we've ever seen. And our kids, well, unfortunately, they got swept in the current. So much so that 89% of 12-year-olds now have a smartphone, even though the majority of parents say they harm family life. And what's even more baffling is that 2/3 of teenagers, yes, the very ones who are glued to these devices, think smartphones are harmful to them. So here's the billion-dollar question. If both parents and teenagers agree they're a problem, why can't we break free from them? Well, my friends, it's time to sneak behind the Silicon Valley curtain, because things are about to get really interesting. Well, the story starts nearly 100 years ago, back when a psychologist called B.F. Skinner and his crew of pigeons made a discovery which ended up informing the science behind how tech companies today purposely hack our dopamine circuits to keep us coming back for more. You see, Skinner had this idea. What happens if you could teach animals to do exactly what you wanted, not through force or fear, but by giving them a treat at exactly the right moment? So he gave his pigeons a treat every time they did the right thing. But then he did something different. He started giving treats randomly. Sometimes the pigeons would peck and get food, sometimes they'd peck and get nothing. And instead of the pigeons getting frustrated and giving up, they went absolutely wild. They'd peck faster, harder, and more desperately than they ever did before. That's exactly what your phone does to your children, and probably to you for that matter, because it certainly happens to me. Every time they check their notifications, they're basically the pigeon in the box, hunting for that dopamine high. Sometimes they get a message or a funny video, sometimes they get nothing. But it's that randomness that keeps them coming back for more. Now this creates a whole new kind of intense peer pressure, one that never sleeps, never takes a break, is constantly buzzing in their pockets. Is it any wonder that our kids simply cannot resist them? And the evidence backs this up. You see, 15 years ago, it wasn't easy to find evidence on the impacts of smartphones on children, but it's a completely different story now. The evidence is really starting to mount, and unfortunately it's not good at all. You see, something dramatic happened right around 2010 when smartphones started appearing in our children's hands. Anxiety, depression and self-harm rates all spiked. Take a look at this graph showing self-harm episodes in 10 to 12-year-olds. The increase for boys and girls is staggering, and it gets worse because studies show the younger a child gets their first phone, the higher likelihood of developing serious mental health challenges. This isn't just happening in the UK. Researchers have shown that the pattern's happening everywhere they look. Now, there's an unseen harm that I never saw coming, and it really shocked me. Now I want you to close your eyes for a second and think back to your own childhood. Back to a time when you used to play footy matches in the street, when you used to go to the park and do cartwheels, and when you were bored you just made random games out of nothing. You see, these real world adventures were teaching us skills that were crucial to our healthy development and success later in adult life. Now let's look at this devastating trend in the amount of time that children are spending with their mates in the real world. For 15 to 24-year-olds, it's gone from nearly 120 minutes a day to just over 40 minutes. Instead, they're spending this time alone on their phones. No wonder kids everywhere report being more lonely than ever before. So why are our kids spending so much time on screens rather than in the real world? Well, to understand that, we need to follow the money. Because if you look a bit deeper into the business models that underpin a lot of big tech, you'll understand they're not after our money because they're after something far more valuable, which is our attention. And our children's attention, well, that's pure digital gold. You see, these platforms use learning engines called algorithms that are engineered to understand exactly what keeps users engaged. Every time your child watches a video, shares a post, leaves a comment, they're teaching the algorithm exactly what keeps them hooked. And how do you convert attention into cash? Through advertising, of course. Fundamentally, these companies need us to be stuck on these devices because that's what drives revenue, growth, and ultimately profit. The stock market isn't interested in well-being, it's just business to them. We're up against some powerful forces, so what can we do about it? Here's the amazing thing we've discovered. When a parent acts alone in delaying giving their kids a smartphone, it can feel incredibly tough and lonely. But when a few parents act together, something magic happens. It suddenly becomes possible, and not only that, completely doable, as proven by thousands of parents already. Right now, 300,000 British parents have joined the huge smartphone-free childhood movement, standing together to achieve one thing: giving our kids the chance to learn and grow in the real world, face-to-face, free from addictive algorithms. And here's what we recommend. Simple brick phones until at least the age of 14. There's loads of options out there that I'll link to in the description below. No social media until at least the age of 16. Studies show that your child's brain will really thank you for this. If they need to use the internet, ideally have a family computer or a shared device that's kept in a common area. And if you're worried about their safety, you can pop an AirTag or a Tile in their bag. And now to answer the big question, how do you make this happen for your children? Well, there's two simple parts to it. The first is Smartphone Free Childhood's Parent Pact. Think of it like a digital handshake between parents who agree to delay giving smartphones and social media to their children. The Parent Pact platform lets you find your school and connect with other parents who are choosing to delay giving their kids a smartphone. This is where the second part comes in, our community groups. Because if we're being really honest, this journey can feel quite daunting at times. We've got WhatsApp groups across every corner of the UK. Think of them like lifelines of support where you can connect to a community who can help you with your challenges as well as share your wins. As a self-proclaimed tech geek who spent over 15 years working in the industry building products, timing is everything. It's simply about introducing smartphones to our kids when they're really ready for them. And we now know from research that that's happening way too soon. Just like with smoking on aeroplanes, car seat belts, or corporal punishment in schools, we'll look back on this time and be horrified at what we let our kids be exposed to. What gives me hope is that we're not alone in this fight. We're a growing movement of parents who refuse to surrender childhood to algorithms and mini supercomputers. We've seen it working in homes, communities and classrooms across Britain. So I just want you to remember one simple thing. When we act together, we are powerful beyond belief. To join us, just Google Smartphone Free Childhood to find our website, to sign the Parent Pact, and to join your local WhatsApp group. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you again soon.